Welcome to Ixion. My name is Nilos, and this is a full defense of Ixion as the best the logistic genre has to offer. I don't want to see a game ruined, and especially a game that I enjoy so much, ruined by bad reviews because players just don't understand how the game is supposed to be played and therefore complain and leave bad reviews on Steam. Unfortunately, I hear a lot of comments in my live streams and in my comment section that goes something like, the Steam reviews are mixed, so I will just wait. And that hurts the developers so much. For this video, I have browsed a lot of Steam reviews and I will address the main complaints and show some specific tips and tricks to make the experience easier. Now, this is still a hard game and it is supposed to be hard, but there are choices you can make to make it either easier or harder for yourself during your approach. This is particularly the case if you're not familiar with factory and logistics games. Hopefully more people will get a better experience based on videos like this and also the Let's Play and my live streams. And if you are enjoying the game, then I encourage you to head on over to Steam and give Ixion a positive review. It helps the game developers out so much and gets us closer to that very positive and even overwhelmingly positive that it so very much deserves. Let's take a look at a Steam review, and this one I found is wonderfully detailed and it summarizes a lot of the points that I think are just screaming to me that there is a problem with the player, not the game.
A science ship team has completed a task.
Thank you, but not right now. So, what do we see here? So, it says wonderful release, wonderful story, horrible balancing. It's this balancing word that's interesting, right? Saying that try many times and lose and can't get past chapter 2. So, here are something about stability. So, stability is one of the cases that is definitely common things. But I see a lot of things here that are just screaming about problems, right? There are some things that are missing, and there are some policies that you definitely shouldn't be running if you're having this problem here. And that's spending too long in the system, waste policies. I mean, I'm just seeing people are seeing this person here play it incorrectly and blaming the game. Hull damage is mentioned as well, that it should be halved. Well, that's not really the problem. It's your industry that should be doubled and not your hull damage that should be halved. Accidents are happening all the time, and I love this part that change the alerts because they are everywhere. Well, I mean, maybe try not having alerts all the time is kind of where we want to aim for. So I'll help you, dear reviewer, and everyone else get to a point where you don't have alarms going off all the time, where you don't need to have hull damage cut in half, and where you can actually maintain a stable and happy operation here. There's other comments that I see is about the punishing. Everything is punishing. And yes, it is. It's supposed to be difficult. And if you make mistakes, then you will be punished. If you overwork them, accidents will happen. That's kind of a given here in this game. And it's very punishing. It's not just a little bit. It's very punishing. And a lot of comments about like wait for balance. And balance is sort of this word that is just thrown around that sort of covers everything they don't like about it. So I think we'll go into some specific details, and I'll show you in my game here where I'm going to be trying not to spoil too much, but of course the units are the same, but I'm not going to show anything about the story at all. The very first thing that we need to address in this kind of game is about how logistics and factory game work in general. They are revolving around positive and negative feedback cycles. So for example, this game and many other logistics games have the essence that you need workers to operate, and workers need food and housing need alloys, and alloys need industry, and industry need workers, but you can't get the workers because you don't have the food and the housing, and you don't have the food and housing because you don't have the alloys, you don't have the alloys because you don't have the industry, and you don't have the industry because you don't have the workers. And that's kind of the vicious cycle, or it can also be the virtuous cycle. If you have enough, then you can build it and you can keep ahead of it. So very much your mindset when playing games such as this should be that you want to be ahead of the curve, and you want to make sure that you see a bit ahead, and then make sure you have enough workers so you don't have to overwork them, that you have enough resources coming in so that your hull damage doesn't go into the warning area. We're going to start by taking a look at accidents, and I'm just taking my sector 1 here. It's a bit of a mess, I know. Don't scold me for it in the comment section, but the most important thing for this is that we look at optimal conditions. When it comes to accidents, they are going to happen, but they are much more likely to happen if you are overworking your crew. So the very, very simple solution to accidents is never, ever work under anything except optimal conditions. So for example, if we start enabling this one and this one, then we see we now have extra hours, and that means now the likelihood of accidents is radically increasing. Now, how much is it increasing? How much is it going to be a problem? Well, those are sort of internal numbers, and they'll probably be subject to change, and they have been changed in the past, right from the first couple of days. But one thing to keep in mind is that
accident has occurred in the Tiqqun.
Oh, that's brilliant, right? That is brilliant. Look at that. An accident happened, and what happened? Accident happened. One crew member was killed just because we overwork a bit. So as you can see, don't overwork them. I think that was a perfect example. I don't think it'll be as hard of a hit normally, but this is what happens. If you have anything except optimal, then you will be subject to incidents. And that is what we want to avoid. So that is the very first thing that you will need to change. If you are ever having anything but optimal, change it and go back to optimal. If you need to switch something on, you switch something else off, and preferably switch it off before switching it on, because there is a chance that if there's sort of a latent accident waiting to happen, then as soon as you enable it, it'll happen instantly. You don't even have time to disable something else. So try to sort of disable the other one and enable the ones you need, and that should get you on track for accident handling. Next thing we want to look at is happiness. So here we have they are happy, and we can see here what do we have in terms of the positive things and in terms of negative things. And this is what is really important. You can see that I have +2 for people living mostly in optimized quarters. That is really important, that you need to make sure that they live in really good quarters. More than half. You can have some bad some bad quarters here, but only up to a certain amount, and that's also really key in doing this. Then we have like the negative ones. They will just keep accruing. You can see the little house thing under the propaganda that's relevant to this sector, and the other ones that have a cross, that's the Tiqqun. That means it's affecting all of the Tiqqun. So in this case, you can see that we have lots of negative ones. They sort of accrue, like the death of Earth, the mortality, leaving home. All those things are things that sort of progress as the game progresses, because of course you're expected to build a better base and get more upgrades and more technology, and therefore the game also sort of progressively adds more penalties, and you have to compensate for them. The best thing to do in terms of stability is the DLS. The DLS center is absolutely amazing, so consider researching this if you are even remotely having issues with this, because in here you can then set up propaganda. This doesn't cost anything. It just means you can only change policies every 15 cycles, but you don't need to change policies, so who cares? That gives you +2 stability instantly. It does take a little bit in terms of here, like 3 people and 5 power, so it's not actually very much. It's very easy to make, and you really should have this in all of your sections. It also gives the advantage that you can then see what the specialization is, so that's another little bonus here. But definitely the DLS is the best one to do. Other options is of course the alternate life center. This gives +1, and then later on it gives +2 when you get up to having a larger population. The third option is over here with these kind of memorials, and these memorials have a specialization depending on what kind of zone it is, like whether it's industry, food, or population. Then they can get up to +2. So that's also nice. And this doesn't require power, this doesn't require anything, it's just a memorial. So that's another way to do it. And between those things, you should be able to keep it under control. Also remember, not everyone has to be happy. You can have some being happy and other people being unhappy. No, they're not even unhappy here. Huh. And as long as the total here is staying positive, then you don't have a problem at all. Population. Well, population is closely linked to stability. Of course, you don't want to have unemployed people or sort of homeless people. If we look at the stability in this sector where we have a lot of homeless people, then we can see that we have -3 for homelessness being over 75 in the sector. And yet, despite the -3, then we are still okay, because we have +10 for opening a new sector. So it just gives us a bit of a leeway to get the ball rolling on this. But it's -3 for being over 75%. -3 for over 75, -2 for between 50 and 75, and -1 for between 25 and 50. This also means that you can happily have 24% of your population being homeless, and it won't affect anything. For example, no, I don't even have any homeless people in here in this zone, but that is something worth mentioning. Additionally, we also have that bonus which we saw earlier. We saw here that they have +2 for people living mostly in optimized quarters. So that gives us +2. So you can actually go from -3 from homeless to +2 from optimized quarters. And this is even when you have the cell housing here, because we have a lot of people housed in this location, but it's still less than half. So try to balance between the very compact cell housing and then the good but also space intensive optimized housing, and that should keep you going. Now when it comes to population, since your population will be one of the drivers that will get you to overwork situation, which is going to be the main point of killing everything, then you want to make sure that you have your popsicles, your human popsicle dethawing going as much as possible, and you want to make sure that you keep doing this. Now remember that of course you might be like, oh, I can't support a bigger population, but think of it like this: if you are working on with insect farms, then 1 in 10 resources of workers, that 1 in 10 person you open has to work in insects safe farm to feed the rest. So it's not actually very much, and even though maybe like half are workers and half are not workers, then keep in mind that it's not that big a percentage that it has to be allocated to insect farms, and once you get better farming, then that even changes as well. So try to stay ahead on this, and try to get a good population, because there's no problem with having too many workers. They don't care. It just means that if there's an accident and 10 people go to the infirmary, then they're still going to be running on optimal working conditions. That is a very nice situation to be in. Next one to look at is industry, because a lot of complaints I've seen is about the hull damage, which seems excessive. And when I hear that hull damage is excessive, then all I hear is that user industry is not sufficient. And that's basically something you should have a look at. So here we have the EVA airlock. You can optimize it by sort of switching it on and off and only operating when it's low. I just don't bother with that. It becomes more effective as it gets lower. That's sort of a way to sort of catch you up if you're falling behind, but then get a boost of resources, then get that going in. I would say that I've been sort of, how would I build a how would I sort of give you some rules of thumb in order to how much to build? Well, my thought is that here's an easy way: build 1 EVA airlock for each chapter you're in. So in chapter 3 you should have at least 3 airlocks. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and I'm actually considering getting another one before the end of this chapter. Also, I would say that in terms of sort of baselines, in terms of your steel production, get the same amount of steel mills as you have EVA airlocks. That means 1 for each chapter. Slightly less in case of polymers, and in case I've done it basically like 3 in this case. Or at this stage in the game, I have 3 steel mills, 2 polymer presses, and 1 electronics factory, and that seems to work pretty well. Now, of course, this needs a lot of input from mining and harvesting, but that's another part of it as well. Another thing that also is something you can keep in mind is the scaling of how many sectors do you want. And here again, I would say add 1 sector for each chapter you're in, so that if you're in chapter 2, then that is when you open the 3rd sector. And if you're in chapter 4, then that's probably where you add the 5th sector. That's just like a rule of thumb, and basically if you're opening 4 sectors in chapter 1, then you are probably doing something wrong, and that's probably why you're failing. And those are the kind of things that, yes, it'll take a lot of investment to open a new sector, but you also get a lot of resources in here for free, and you get time and space, time to open up because of the happiness here, the +10 for opening new sector, and also you get a lot of extra space where you can build. And you can just start shoveling things in here, and then your excess population can also be sent in here as well, once you get somewhere they can stay, of course. At some point you will get a notification that you're spending too long in the current system, and this is the Dead Earth Syndrome. And well, that's just a way to encourage you to move on to the next chapter of the game, and it's quite a useful mechanic. Otherwise, people would sort of not really be encouraged to move on. On the other hand, it's not so severe, so you can actually still be there, and you can still work in the zone. And that's what I'm going to recommend you to do. What I'm going to do is I'm only going to show you in chapter 1, and I'm even going to disable this, so we can go to the map view, without getting too many spoilers. But what you can see is that I have a lot of points here, and they are all harvested. I only have a little few things that I'm harvesting here, getting those harvested, and then I want to leave. So this is what I would recommend, is that before you leave, before you click the big vol jump button, then you should be harvesting all you can, building up a nice deposit. If we go in here again, and you can see here I have a large amount of stockpile of alloys ready for the next zone, and that's what I would highly recommend that you do as well. Now, what is a good industrial build-up if you don't have resources to build it in? So let's look in fleet management. Now, fleet management, this is again something I would say that you start out with one dock and then add another dock for each chapter. So you, in chapter 2 you should have 3, in chapter 3 you should have 4, and so on. And they can each have 3, and you have to balance it between mining ships, cargo ships, and science ships. I would say that 2 science ships seems to be fine. You don't want to be getting out too fast on these things, and you're going to be sticking around in the zone for quite a while. So no need to rush through that. You're going to cover all the science locations anyway. Mining ships, 2 fleet ships. I would say 2 to 3 transport ships for each mining ship, depending on how much you're moving around in the world. I think that you can also see the fact that this is how much room there is. There is an indication that you probably want more of these. How you want to allocate them to different resources, that's up to you. I have just basically said that there's one allocated for each one different specific thing, and then they can do the other things if they want to as well. But there's a good ratio here, like 2 science ships and some mining ships. What you can also do, and I think that's an important thing if you didn't know, if you go in here, then you can, for example, say that I don't want my this ship here. I can unassign it, and it's now sort of in storage here. It doesn't do anything. These are just available if I wanted to get an extra mining ship out in operation, or I could throw that in, and then I can build another one as well. So it's just really neat that you can alternate your fleet depending on time and optimize it for different sections. Generally in the beginning you want science, you want mining, and less cargo, and in the end you want less science because you've discovered everything, and you want more cargo bringing stuff back, and they might also be need to bring it further back, so that's going to be a longer haul for them as well. Here is another thing that definitely has room for optimization, and I will not be covering all of the main science because you choose the ones that you need at this point, but I will cover all of the main ones, the ones I prefer, in terms of the sub science here, the specializations within each. And the way it works is that once you've unlocked all of the science at tier 2, then you will get access to the specializations at tier 2. Once you've unlocked all the specializations at tier 3, then you will get access to all the specializations at tier 3 as well, and then similarly at tier 4. Also, likewise, some of these here will only need to be unlocked later on or have dependencies. Now, in terms of priority, there is one that is more higher prioritized than anyone else, than any other ones, and that is over here. This is under the tech lab, under assistant promotion. This one generates 3 science every 5 cycles. So by default, a tech lab produces, and you can only have 1 tech lab, so 1 tech lab produces 1 every 30 cycles, which is basically nothing. But 3 every 5 cycles is actually quite a lot. Now, I'm at cycle 600, and let's say I built this at cycle 100, because that's easy to calculate. That is 500 cycles where it's been iterating. That's 100 times it's triggered. That's 300 science that this single thing has generated. 300 science for free? Yes, please. Likewise, getting the other one, upping it to 5 every 5 cycles, is very valuable as well. So definitely get this one first. It also prevents you from being hardlocked. You can get hardlocked by the quest, where the quest requires you to unlock a certain tech, and then you can't unlock it because you only get 1 science every 30 cycles, and that's not workable. So that's definitely get this one first, no exceptions. Other good ones are the ones that actually give you free stuff. I like free stuff, and therefore I want to focus on the stuff that gives me free stuff. Now I'm going to go through some of them. Under crew quarter, for example, here there is one called Optimized Home, which is a better house. So instead of having the 3x3 houses that house 15, then you have a 3x6 house that house 40. So it's not, and it also costs equivalent to cost 40 alloys. So it doesn't save on It does save on space, but it doesn't save on resources. But space in and of itself is nice, because you're kind of constrained on that if you want a really big population. There is another one, and that is this one. Additional beds give you 30% extra free capacity. This is amazing. But you need to get the reorganization of care, which is increasing infirmaries by 5 beds, which you hopefully shouldn't need because you are managing your work conditions properly. But if you get this and then get the additional beds, it's a very good upgrade. Why do I not have it? Because I'm an idiot. I'll get it soon enough. Other really beneficial ones is over here by the crop farm, the insect farm. We have accelerated growth. This is basically giving you 10% extra food for free. That's great. So instead of having 10 ant farms, then you maybe only need 9 farms, kind of rounded. Another one here I like is in here that reduces the solar panel cost by 10%. It doesn't seem like much, but the sooner you get it, the bigger the impact is, because it's all further. If you get it really late, then you don't get much benefit from it, but if you get it early, you reap the benefit early. So I think that's a valuable one as well. Over here, where else do we have some things that are useful? The EVA airlock is very good as well. Here we can get repair efficiency by 5%, by 10%, by 15%. This will help you if you find that the hull damage is deteriorating and you need some help with that. Aside from this, a lot of them are sort of a nice little minor bonus, but nothing major in any case. And I'm just focusing on the ones that are early game. Of course, stuff like, hey, do you want to use 13 iron for 15 alloys? Yes, please, definitely. It's the same with here. This is 4 to 5, and this one as well. It's 25 to 1. So basically, these are just free resources. Definitely want to focus on those as well. But you have to balance it against unlocking new resources. Hopefully you have learned a few things from this video, and there are a lot to keep track of. And if you have learned some things, be sure to hit the like button. And of course, if you now see that there is a method to the madness and this game is not so unreasonably unbalanced, then I think you should go on over to Steam and write a positive review for the game, because it absolutely deserves to get a better rating than it currently has. So thank you very much to the developers who made this absolutely amazing game that I love, and I'm going to be streaming it. I'm going to be throwing videos on my YouTube channel. If you're not interested in Ixion, what the hell are you watching this video for? But there will be other content coming along as well. But I want to strike when it's hot for Ixion. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, take care, and as always, stay effective.